folks, and welcome to West Bloomfield 911. I'm Officer Rick, and on behalf of Chief Mike Patton and my brothers and sisters in the West Bloomfield Police Department, we're glad you're here to see another show. And you know, this one I'm very excited about because, as I told you in the past, I not only get to speak to people that I respect and admire, but a lot of times I get to have my friends on. And today I have two of my friends, two of my brothers in blue. I'd like to introduce to you David McNealy III. Dave, how are you, buddy?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm glad you're here. And Jon Jacob. Jon, how you doing, pal?
Hey, sir. How are you?
Good, good. I'm glad you guys are both here. And folks, we'll come back to these guys, but we're going to talk about how blue blood runs in the family. Folks, before we talk to my brothers that are here at the table with me, we're going to do a corner spotlight like we do on one of our other brothers in blue that isn't here today. Please look on there and see the smiling face of Police Officer John Wynn. John's currently working the road patrol. What shift is he on, guys?
Midnight.
Midnights. No wonder I never see him. Thank goodness if I see you, John, it meant I did something wrong. But he's currently working midnight road patrol, and John's a relative newbie. He hired in February of 2015, so he's been here about 6 months. And he is one of the good young guys that's here in the department. We're glad he's here, and guys like John indicate a bright future, not only for the community, but our department as well. His previous law enforcement experience consists of being an ordnance officer for the Rochester Police Department. So we're glad you're here doing this though now, John. Favorite food, like a lot of the guys here, pizza. And I don't blame him, I like pizza too. His favorite movie, Saving Private Ryan, the 1998 drama starring Tom Hanks, Matt Damon, and a cast of characters. You know, and that was a great movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Did you guys like that?
Oh yeah, excellent.
Great film, great film. Favorite music, country and western, like a lot of the guys here as well. And when we talked about accomplishments and hobbies, he said he's an avid golfer and he loves lion football. Boy, you're young, you'll learn. You got plenty of time to be disappointed like the rest of us. But actually, you're starting to do better now. And he loves hanging out with family and friends. When I asked him about his favorite quote, he gave me one I had not heard before. Life is a series of collisions with the future. It is not the sum of what we have been, but what we yearn to be. And I do like that one. And that is a quote by Jose Ortega y Gasset. So, John, life is a series of collisions, but don't get any collisions on the road. We're going to turn the corner spotlight off on Officer John Wynn. If you happen to see him, stop and say hello, and John will see you in the barn. Folks, we're going to give you an interesting little historical fact on Law Enforcement Week in the United States, and we talked about that at another show, that it was originally brought in by President John F. Kennedy in 1962. But it was 20 years after President Kennedy designating Law Enforcement Week in May that the first police memorial service was held in Washington, D.C. And in that first service in 1982, 120 law enforcement personnel and family members showed up for that service. Now, things have changed tremendously in that time. I was fortunate enough to be there a couple of years ago. And now, on a regular basis, when they have Peace Officers Memorial Day and Law Enforcement Week in May, there are 25 to 40,000 people, law enforcement, family and friends, police from all over the world show up to pay their respects to honor our fallen heroes. And so things have changed in that sense for the good. Unfortunately, we're still losing officers. That isn't good, but it is nice to remember them. Not only those who have gone before, but as the President Kennedy once said, to also remember those who continue to serve. That is our law enforcement fact today. There will be a test at the end of the show, so don't go away. Folks, we will be back with our very special guests, my friends, my brothers in blue, David McNealy and Jon Jacob. Don't go away. Come on back.
You're watching West Bloomfield 911 on Civic Center TV, a service of the Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commission. For more information or to watch episodes on demand, visit civiccentertv.com/WB911. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
The West Bloomfield Police Foundation raises money to help those who protect and serve the community. Whether it's emotional or financial support, the foundation provides a helping hand to officers, their families, and those in the community. For more information on the West Bloomfield Police Foundation, contact Kurt Lawson at 248-975-8900 or visit wbpolicefoundation.org.
And we are back. As I said, we have two of my brothers in blue, David McNealy III and Jon Jacob. Dave,
hey, Rick.
Good to see you again. Jon?
Hey, Rick.
And, before we go, I've got to tell you, I told Dave when the camera wasn't running, but it was absolutely hilarious. When the other day I saw you at the station, we were at the front desk, and I said, hey, Jon, sorry, man, your show's been canceled. And you were actually very disappointed. What?
Yeah.
I said, I'm only kidding.
Yeah, I was excited to come down here today and be with my buddies, hang out on the show, so didn't want to miss that opportunity.
Good. Well, we're glad you feel that way. One thing, the reason, and this was actually Dave's idea for the show, I got to give you credit where credit is due. And Dave said, hey, Rick, have you ever thought about doing a show where we talk about officers, as the three of us, who have blue blood that runs in the family? And I said, you know what? I like that idea. Let's do it. And so here we are. Dave, let's start with you because it was your idea, certainly. But I know you and I have talked in the past, and I know you had a very, very close relationship with your father.
Yep.
Talk about your father and what influence he was, because your father was retired as a chief of police for two agencies.
Yeah, my dad had a pretty illustrious law enforcement career and also retired Marine.
Yep, that's right.
And grew up in a Catholic household, Marine, Catholic household, policeman, hello. So I just
and you survived it all.
Oh yeah, I just want to acknowledge Jon too, because his dad, also you're going to talk to him too.
Right, we were going to go into that.
He thought, I thought about him immediately when I talked to you about it. And
right.
I thought it was pretty cool that there's several officers like Mark Stout and guys that have that background. And
we have quite a few.
Yeah, there's quite a few now, like Derek Case and Bob Stevens and
Sergeant Grunwald.
Yeah, Sergeant Grunwald, all those guys that have and gals that have law enforcement in their family. It's kind of a, it's still a noble, honorable career.
In spite of what the press wants people to believe today.
Yeah, and working for West Bloomfield, we have a fantastic relationship with our residents. So I'm very proud of having that background and having a father that was in law enforcement that kind of guided me to where I am today. So pretty proud of that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Your dad spent how many years in law enforcement? And I know he retired as, when he retired, he had served as the chief of police for the Sumter Township Police Department and the Royal Oak Township Police Department, which doesn't exist anymore, but those were two agencies in which he was the leader,
right? And
had come up through the ranks.
He sure did. He also was a command officer at Metro Airport Police Department.
Mm-hmm.
I know you would know about that. They bounced back and forth because you were in Wayne County at one point in your career. Long career that you had. Horse and buggies back in your career.
You know what? We're gonna have to stop this show. We're gonna talk when the cameras aren't running.
Oh no! I just got thrown off the show, folks.
But we can't come back now, Dave. Jeez.
He was also. It was called Dangerous Drugs and Narcotics back then. I think it's like DEA now.
Yes.
So he has had he became a policeman in 1954. I do know that.
Wow.
So he had a long career.
Yeah.
So it's in my bloodline. It goes way back. So I'm pretty proud of Dad. He passed away back in 2007. So.
Yeah, I remember we were there and it's always tough when we lose someone we love, but none of us are going to get out of here alive, And thank God he died natural death and wasn't killed in the line of duty or anything like that. So you got to have him.
I will tell you this: in his career, he was shot in the line of duty as a policeman, and he was also shot. He was a Marine, as I indicated, and he was also shot in Vietnam. So, and he survived both of those incidents. Else I wouldn't be here.
Yeah,
so I'm pretty lucky.
You got that lucky rabbit's foot he was carrying around?
Oh yeah. When they say you ever hear the saying, a tough Marine? He's one tough Marine. He was really one tough Marine. So I'm glad I have that background also.
Well, I'll tell you what, his son's not doing too bad either.
Yeah.
He's got a tough son too.
Yeah.
So we're glad for that. Why don't you hold that picture up of your dad? I know you're very proud of him.
Yep, I'm proud of Dad.
Yep. Very good. And I'm sure he's proud of you as well.
Yep.
Jon, let's go to you. Fortunately, our fathers have gone, but your dad is still alive, still
Yes, sir.
with you.
Yes, sir.
And your father is serving with the Oakland County Sheriff's Office.
That's right.
Now,
Yeah.
how long has he been there, and what kind of influence did he have on you?
He's been at the sheriff's office since 1988 time period. Prior to that, he's at Houston, Texas Police Department.
I didn't know
So,
that.
yeah, he'd been in the job a long time, well over 30 years. He's going on 34, 35 years now. So
Almost as long as me.
yeah, almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that old bird, he still gets up every morning. He loves to go to work. You know, he puts his tie on. He's a detective now. You know,
Yeah.
so he's real happy with that part and gets his tie on. And that guy just loves the job still. And
Yeah.
and you see that sparkle in his eye and his just willingness to want to get out there and do the job and help people and do whatever he can. And that fires me up too. So
Well, you also wore brown, but
Yes,
you didn't
sir.
wear it for Oakland County Sheriff.
no, sir.
And so I would imagine your father was very, very proud of you that you followed in his footsteps.
Yeah.
What was that like growing up with your dad being a lifetime police officer?
Well, Dad run a tight ship, you know. See, there ain't no
See,
joking about that.
There's a
you know?
connection. There's a reason why I wanted this guy with me.
You're right. So, growing up, you did what was right, and you know you trusted that you'd do what you're right. But he'd bring the hammer down if you didn't. I
Right.
tell you that. And I know that I'm the person I am today all because of that man. So. He's one of the greatest people, just like David had and his father, and just like you, is that that's your go-to person, you know,
Yeah.
and everything that you learn in life and who you want to be like is that person. So for that, I'll be forever grateful.
Right.
So
Right. Well, enjoy him because life is too short. you
that's
know?
right, sure is.
Now, my father was not a police officer, but we did have it in the family. My grandfather, my maternal grandfather was, I know Dave knows, but I don't know if you know, John, my maternal grandfather was actually retired from the Lebanese police force. He served as a police officer in Lebanon back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and retired out of there. And then we skipped a generation, and he only had one boy, my uncle, and he did not become a police officer. But then I was the first grandson who became a police officer when I hired in Brown, like you,
Yeah.
working for the Wayne County Sheriff's Office. But in those days they used to say Wayne County Sheriff's Department.
Right.
And then Consolidated Rail Corporation, and then here. But I also had another cousin on that side of the family who was a Michigan State police trooper, and another cousin who also served as a reserve officer for the Dearborn Heights Police Department for many years, and now he's with the Northville Police Department. So
Wow.
law enforcement runs in my family as well.
Sure.
You know, we all three of us got that blue blood.
That's right.
So, well, when was the first time, like for you, Dave, that is growing up, that you realized life was a little bit different because your dad was a cop, where you know, other people who don't have that maybe don't quite understand what it's like growing up with a police officer, and in your case, a Marine in the family.
Yeah, I think that as a younger man, understanding the amount of stress, you know, that a police officer goes through daily, and then living with one, you know, you have to. That's a pretty big adjustment too. Like, you know, like wives and kids and you know things like that.
Right.
You just start to know that your parent goes through a lot of things and sees a lot of stressful things.
Right.
So I think that you know, just watching my dad over the years handle all those things and absorb all those things, and then still, you know, run a household,
Right.
you know, and provide and take care of the family and things like that. So I think, you know, through my early years, just adjusting to that and watching him and knowing, you know, the stresses of the job.
Right.
I think, you know, that was, like I said, in my earlier years, that watching him go through all that stuff and still maintain, you know.
A solid level head.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, how old were you when your dad retired?
Oh God. Gosh, maybe mid-20s, I think, or something like that.
Were you cognizant aware that your dad was shot as a kid, or was that before your time?
You know what? How about this? Like when he used to shave, because I can remember watching him shave and things like that,
Yeah.
which I thought
Like
was the coolest
all
thing in the
kids
world. I'm
love,
like, oh, I'm
yeah.
going to do that someday,
Right,
but I
right.
still really can't grow any facial hair. It's like in patches. It goes here, goes here, but
I can't either.
yeah. So, like, you know, he'd be standing in the bathroom shaving. I can remember that because I actually still have his actual razor. I took it when he passed. I told all my siblings I'm taking that. But so I have his razor, and he'd be standing in front of the mirror without a shirt on, and I'd see a couple of spots on him, and I'm like, geez, Dad, what was that? And then some of my siblings actually have the newspaper articles when he was shot in the line of duty and all that stuff like that. So,
Keep that, man.
oh, I've got it all.
Family history.
I've got it all.
How about you, John? Growing up, not all your friends, I'm sure, had police officers as a parent,
Oh, no.
and it definitely is a different life.
It sure is.
What was it like for you growing up with your dad and seeing the difference? Dad not home on weekends all the time, Dad not home on holidays, working odd shifts.
Well, yeah, most of growing up for me, my dad was assigned to the crime lab, so he was on a call-out basis 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even on the times it wasn't his rotation to be on call. So there's a lot of stuff that growing up, either he had to run away from, we're out, at some kind of sports event or school event or something or dinner, and he's gone for whatever reason, and that's an adjustment point. But at the same time, it's what he did when he came home that really, I guess, showed how much he was involved with the family still, and that's the difference between a normal kid's life and a cop's life is how to deal with the fact of Dad not being around, or mom's in a lot of cases now today not being around. And it doesn't mean you can't be a good person, though.
That's
it doesn't mean that you can't do what's right and make them still proud and they love you no less, So that was the biggest thing maybe. But at the same time, when he came home, it was no different than when he was there. So.
I remember, as I say, my father wasn't a police officer, but my dad worked 7 days a week.
Yeah.
I grew up in a family grocery store, and that was what my dad did for a living. And I always tell a lot of the younger people today, and I tell the parents, you know what, kids aren't stupid. And they know when you can't be there because you can't, that is your job. Mm-hmm. That's how you provide for your family. And I think that's, how you felt with your dad.
Yeah.
You knew he wasn't there not because of a lack of love,
Right.
but that's what Dad did for a living.
Right.
And the same with my dad. I knew he wasn't there because he had to work 7 days a week. That's how he provided.
Right.
Kids know when you're not there because you can't be or when you don't want to be.
Like every time.
Now my youngest son Donovan, I'll get a text, can I buy a game on Xbox or something? I will immediately say, well, what'd your mom, my wife Becky, what did your mom say? Because I got to bounce it back because I'm here and I work after the afternoon shift. John and I work afternoons together, so we work from 3 to 11, and sometimes John works from 4 to 12.
Yeah.
So, you're there in spirit always.
Right.
At home, you're there in spirit, but they also, like you just touch on what you said, is that they know that you're out here serving and protecting, you're out here doing your job, and that sometimes takes you away from home.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and as you said, I've been in this a little bit longer, and
Long time.
Yeah.
We're going to have to really stop this time.
Very long.
Brutus.
Right.
Yeah, really.
Got to get a minimum we can,
That's
right?
right. Yeah, right. So much for that. Next time, I pick the guests.
Well, we're going to kick us out of here. Right? So we couldn't come on TV.
Can we still keep our mugs?
No.
Oh, we're going to turn them in on the way out.
Well, but one thing we did with Dave, and you showed his father. Why don't you lift yours up and show your dad to the
Yeah,
cameras
this is back when I worked for the sheriff's office in Bingham County. So this is taken when I first started there. So it's kind of cool. Both me and my dad wearing the same uniform, right? Different patch, but same color uniform.
What year was that?
2010, 11, right in that time period. So, but yeah.
See, something you forgot is that he was a cadet for us too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and when I did the corner spotlight on him, I mentioned he had a very unique position because I don't think, do we have anyone besides you, John, that hired in as a cadet and left and came back. You
I don't
got a
think
unique
so,
position
sir.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I don't think so.
I know I was surprised to see you back.
Yeah.
Disappointed also, but that's another story. I'm only teasing.
I know.
You get the jabs, I got to
You're right.
Gotta-
Yeah,
Turnbout's
hey, I
fair
can
play.
do.
Gotta give
can.
back.
I know
Right.
you can. Well, let me ask you guys. We talked about fathers and how they influence you. Now that your dad is gone, and thank God your dad is still with you.
Yeah.
How do you live your life? And you're married and got kids. John, I know you're still single. How do you live your life, and how does your dad's influence affect you on a day-to-day basis when
Well,
you're
I'll tell you
talking
this.
to your kids and your wife, and how you handle things on the street?
My wife calls me Dave, but now that my dad has passed away, I ask everyone to call me David.
I always called you
And-
David
yep.
anyway.
Well, it's significant to me. First of all, the name is significant because it means beloved or beloved, and the other thing is now that I'm the third, as you mentioned, it's important for me that because I'm named after him, his legacy it carries on.
Right.
So, I try to live my life to the best of my abilities and try to be a good dad and all that good stuff and good husband and everything else. But significance for me, though, his influence is my name, and I'm named after him. So I take great pride in that.
Right.
Great pride in that.
Right. Well, and I'm sure, I know your dad's very proud of you. And just let folks know, too, like you said, your dad being former Marine, never an ex-Marine, former Marine.
That's right.
We recently went out to the National Cemetery, and a bunch of us for one of the guys in the department, civilian, but was buried out there because he had served in the Army, Elmer. And when we were out there, me and the guys we were with, we stopped at your dad's gravesite, as well as several of the others who have relatives out there, and I have a dear friend that was out there, and we all paid our respects, and said our prayers and saluted them, and we did the same for your father.
Out there in Holly,
So, yep, absolutely. How about you, John? Now your dad's still alive, so he's
Sure.
still looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, everywhere I go, man.
What
He
is
sure
it? How has your dad influenced you to the point now, the way you handle your job, the way you relate to the folks out here, and how you see the future? I would assume at some point you'd like to be married, maybe have kids.
Yeah, for sure.
How does
absolutely.
that influence you with your father?
Well,
And
first,
still being here, looking over your shoulder.
right. Yeah, he's always been a great resource. Ever since the time that I've decided to be in this job field or wanting to go in this job field. First of all, I always try and steer you away from it, But ever since, he's a great person that I can kind of relate to. We relate on a lot of things at the same level, and it's funny now being in the job more years now. It's like you start bouncing things off each other. And he's in the detective bureau, so he has a lot of pull, or I don't want to say pull, but resources that maybe that I wouldn't have on the streets. And I say, hey, Dad, what do you think about this? And that's always something that I can have. But it's nice to have somebody else that you can talk to that is known. I mean, the guy's been in the job almost 35 years, dang near seen it all, and been involved in almost everything, So there's nothing he hasn't seen or done that he can't give some kind of relation to.
Right.
But in life in general, I mean, he's the model person that you want to be after. Takes care of my mom. I got twin sisters, and no matter what, they were always put first. No matter what, and that's what I want to carry on for the rest of my time.
All right. Well, listen, we only have about 3 minutes left, so each got about a minute and a half. David, what would you like to say to kind of sum up and talk about your father and what it means to be a police officer with a lineage of law enforcement in the family?
Just that he set a pretty high bar, and I try to reach that bar to be a good police officer and to honor my name and to honor the position that I have, and just try to continue to have the public trust. It's still an honorable, noble profession, and he instilled that in me by watching his work ethic. So I miss him every day, but
Absolutely.
he's with me in spirit. So
Yes, he is.
I try to carry on that legacy of being in law enforcement, having it in my background, family background.
Now, did your dad, real quickly, did your dad encourage you to be a police officer?
Oh no, like John was just saying. Are you kidding me? He says you'll never be a Rockefeller. I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
And
Now you do.
Of course I do now. He says you'll never be a Rockefeller, and I go, oh my God, what is my dad losing it or something? I never knew what that meant until I got older and I realized, oh boy, yeah, I know what he means.
Yeah. How about you, John? What would you like to say to kind of sum up your relationship with your father and how his influence has molded you and how you feel about how he guided you or didn't guide you into law enforcement.
Well, just like David, he's a model of what I've always aspired to be, I guess you would say, and something that I still strive to be like, because I ain't never going to catch him, and the things that he's done. But the one thing that he's always good with and has always been good with is the fact that you never know who the next person is you're going to help. You never know what the next position you're going to be in that you could, positively affect somebody's life.
Right.
And I carry that every day with it, because that guy works like a dog, for the victims and for getting bad guys off the streets. And
Right.
that's kind of like what I've kind of modeled myself after, is the fact of you help the good, you help the people that need to help, and you get rid of the bad people that can do harm to the good. So I really want to continue to carry that, and just keep doing what I do.
Well, both fathers have done a great job, and I'm sure they're both very proud of you. Fellas, we'd like to remember a fallen officer. I know it's something that means a lot to all of us. Folks, if you look on the screen, you will see there's no picture of him because we don't have one. He died many years ago. But the information about Deputy Marshal Charles Ring from the Saginaw Police Department, who was killed in the line of duty on September 14th, 1864. The reason we're remembering Sergeant Ring on this date is he is the first known Michigan law enforcement officer that was killed in the line of duty, the first of over 500 since then who have died. During the late hours of September 14th, 1864, Deputy Marshal Ring and a good friend of his, Moses Hess, were walking along at Genesee Street and in Saginaw. And at that time, they had run into some people. They didn't give it much thought. They had parted ways. Mr. Hess was the last person, and he's a well-respected individual in the community, to see Deputy Marshal Ring alive. Later on in a local hotel, there were some gunshots heard. The owner of the hotel went up there, found Deputy Marshal Ring laying dead. He had been shot in the head. 2 men were on the scene. They were arrested. It was later determined that the bullet wound that killed Deputy Marshal Ring was not from their guns, and that person has never been caught. But we'd like you to remember this great American hero, Deputy Marshal Charles Ring of the Saginaw Police Department. Please remember him in your thoughts and prayers, as well as the men and women of the Saginaw PD and all police officers, including those of us sitting here at the table, my good friend Jon Jacob, my brother David McNealy, and their dads. And remember us all. Folks, we'd like to thank you for watching. This has been another edition of West Bloomfield 911. I'm Officer Rick, and we thank you for watching us on Civic Center TV. If you can't catch us on the television, please go to the internet and watch us on civiccentertv.com. On behalf of John, David, and all the men and women of the West Bloomfield Police Department, thank you for watching. Take care of yourself, be safe, and I'll see you again on West Bloomfield 911.